Well, that's an interesting subject. Yes, when I started out writing in the early 70s, I did a few fantasies early on. I've been published in fantastic magazines, one of the digest magazines of the day. But predominantly, I published in analog and phasing, and the magazines were identified as science fiction magazines. And I wrote a lot of stuff that was set on other planets with aliens and starships and all of that stuff. I think a lot of that was not because I preferred science fiction to fantasy. I loved them both. I mean, I grew up reading Robert A. Heinlein and Andre Norton were two writers that I devoured in my childhood and early teenage years. But I also read Rodney Howard and Tolkien for the fantasy, H.P. Lovecraft for horror. We didn't call it horror then, we called it monster stories. I love my monster stories. And having read all this, I also wrote all this when I come of age. But in the 60s and the 70s, well into the 70s, there were far more markets for science fiction, particularly in short story length. So that's predominantly what I write. I love the worlds they created and some of the stories they told. I'm still very proud of it. But I look back on it now and saying, I was writing fantasy all along. I mean, I'm not a hard science guy like Stan. Everything that I know about science, I learned from science fiction stories. So, my science fiction stories, if you look at them here, are really space fantasy. I'm using aliens instead of elves or whatever. It's a furniture difference rather than a quantitative difference. And I actually believe that science fiction and fantasy are just two flavors of the same thing. I mean, one of them is chocolate ice cream and one of them is strawberry ice cream. But they're both ice cream. And they taste really good. And there are some people who don't believe that, who feel that they're completely opposite, and indeed may even be in opposition to each other. Because science fiction is real and realistic and, could possibly happen, and fantasy is not. Which is a dubious proposition when you think about it, because
it doesn't hold up.
Actually, there's far more evidence for the existence of ghosts than for hyperspace. So, what do you type of that?